Hello. I've started When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnahill. I'm currently about 50 pages in, I think 48 pages in, and this is the bookmark I decided to use. And I find it to be very fitting for this story. So far, I'm really enjoying the gender roles conversation that it talks about, focusing specifically on women. And I think the women turning into dragons is super interesting. And right now they're calling it spontaneous, but I wonder if it's just something that they have all had within them at this time, and I'm really interested to continue reading. It is written kind of like a scientific journal. I mean, there's like some parts that are written like they're scientific essays, and then the girl that you're following is also a scientist, so everything that she says is very direct and thorough, you could say. It's different to the book that I just read, which was Here Lies a Vengeful Bitch, where it was written very fast-paced. It's not nearly as fast-paced. Like, I'm on to page 50 and the big event just happened. There's still like not a lot of action, I guess you could say, in this book so far. So I'm interested to see if there's going to be more action, or if it's just going to be one of those where she's gathering information and it's kind of more of like a scientific journal type thing. But there's like a letter in the beginning from one of the ladies that turns into a dragon. And she says, "It's not from any place of sorrow that I write these words. There is no room for sorrow in a heart full of fire." She goes on to say, "You will tell people that you did not raise me to be an angry woman, and that statement will be correct. I was never allowed to be angry, was I? My ability to discover and understand the power of my own raging was a thing denied to me until, at last, I learned to stop denying myself." I love that. I mean, I don't love that she had that experience, but I love that she learned to stop denying herself, and that she found power in her rage. There is power in your rage, and don't forget it. I will check back in with you when I read a little more and have some more to say. It's the next day. I was just in the DMV for nearly 2 hours. I think it was 2 hours I was sitting in the DMV waiting just to make a payment on my car assessment. It was the worst thing ever. Thank God I brought my book. If not, I would have been crying, screaming, throwing up. I hate the DMV. I absolutely hate it. Anyway, I read quite a bit more of When Women Were Dragons. I'm currently on page 92, and there's really not much to say about it. It's just kind of going. We've talked about the girl whose name I can't remember. Oh yeah, Alex. So Alex has had a few experiences of seeing unfairness between men and women, and part of it was, we've talked about like getting told about periods in school, and the man that was telling them about it was like, "We think this is on purpose, like intentional, like people choose, like the women choose to go through this change." Doesn't make any sense. And the way that they explained it too was so vague that none of the girls understood what he was talking about. Like, they were talking about seeds, they were talking about pollination of flowers. They would not just come out and say, "You're going to start bleeding from your vagina, and that's a mark that you're going to be able to have children." Anyway, I do not know. There's also been a few excerpts of like police reports of people being arrested for having information on the dragoning. That's what they're calling it, the mass dragoning, when all these women turned into dragons and left. A lot of them ate their husbands too, which I think was cool. Because, I mean, their husbands seemed like they needed to be eaten. So any scientist with information or research on the mass dragoning is being, their information is being seized, they're being silenced. There's a lot of talk of silence and how damaging silence is, because Alex's mother is trying to keep up appearances. She's trying to basically just live in society as a good wife, a good woman, even though it's been heavily implied that her husband is cheating on her, going on business trips, and cheating on his wife, basically, because she had breast cancer, so she no longer has breasts. And that was also implied, like they never told Alex what was going on. Alex just happened to see that she had scars where her breasts used to be. Anyway, and the only person that was ever upfront with Alex was her aunt. And her aunt was one of the women that turned into a dragon and left. But she's also having this like kind of connection with her aunt where she has some memories that are her aunt's memories, but she can see them, you know, like she has them in her mind, like what happened before she left, like what happened before she turned into a dragon. But anyway, so there's a lot of conversations about silence. Or it's not even conversations, it's just experiencing all the times in Alex's life where silence was more prevalent than explanation, and how that has hindered her really in her ability to understand herself and other women in general. But she did have this nice talk about whenever the girls in her class started having their periods, like all the girls very quickly learned like they needed to take care of each other in this way, even though the way it was explained to them they didn't really understand what was happening or why it was happening, but they just knew that one by one every girl was going through this, so they all started carrying all the products that they needed to be able to help the other girls. And like she talks about being helped by two girls that weren't friends with her whenever she got her period. So like they weren't friends with her, and she mentions like we weren't friends afterwards. We didn't start sitting together at lunch or anything like that. Like they just helped me through this. They were like, you need to tell your mom. And you know what? She doesn't tell her mom, but somehow her mom already knew and just left products on her bed with handwritten instructions. And this reminds me a lot of my own experience of having a period. Like I remember when I got mine and I was like scared, and I went to my mom and I was like, hey, there's blood everywhere, you know? And like her eyes got really wide and she just started moving very quickly, like fight or flight mode type thing, and was like shouting and like getting all the stuff, but we never really had a conversation. She was just basically like, welcome to womanhood, and that was it. And then I had to just learn on my own basically what it meant, why it happens, like the biology of it. I feel like when it's explained in that way, it's less scary than when you just wake up with blood everywhere and then you tell your mom about it and she starts freaking out. Like that was a terrifying experience. So anyway, her experience sounded a lot nicer. Like all the girls in her class knew, she kind of understood that it was going to happen. And then she was very kindly helped out by two of the girls in her class. But yeah, silence is damaging. Not explaining is damaging. Pretending like things don't happen is damaging. And for so much of history, that is what has happened with anything that is feminine. Like it's a secret because it's not the same as what men go through. So for some reason it has to be hidden, and that's something that I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like we're different creatures. Like we're the same species, but you're a male, I'm female. There are literally things that are different. So you can't sit there and tell me that these things are weird or gross or that I'm being too much, too emotional. Like I'm different from you. You have to accept my differences, you know? And I have to accept yours. In the same vein, women need to accept men's differences. Like we are not the same. There are so many similarities, but there are also so many differences. The way we show up, the way we feel about things, our place in the world. Like we're learning now, even our fucking sleep cycles are different. Like women need more sleep than men. The whole 9 to 5 thing. It doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for our hormonal cycles. Like we're different and we're the same. And it's the lack of acceptance in that. It's the lack of talking about it, the lack of researching it, like seeing the research being hidden and taken by the police, seeing people being silenced for doing their research. I guess that's why I'm like, I almost can't say I'm enjoying the book. Like, because it just reminds me of how much of this is true. And it's sad. It's absolutely sad. Hello. It has been a whole week since the last time that I really talked to you. I have read just a little bit more of When Women Were Dragons, and I need to say that this is a really good book. I'm not reading it slowly because it's bad. I'm reading it slowly because it angers me, as I think it would anger most women, especially women that don't subscribe to the idea, well, that serving men or our children is the highest calling that we could ever have. And like, maybe a lot more people would disagree about serving your children. So reading this book and seeing how Alex's mother was treated by her husband, how her work was seen as not hard, because she was able to do it with cancer, not even thinking about the fact that maybe all this work that she's doing and all this worry that she has and all this unfulfillment might be giving her cancer. Like, and I know that's kind of a controversial view, but there have been scientific studies lately that show that women that are more outspoken are less likely to get cancer. So it does have something to do with harboring hard emotions. Keeping your anger inside can really give you cancer. But she was still taking care of the kids. She was still doing all of the housework. She was still, you know, making sure that the husband's food and whiskey was ready, even when he didn't come home from work because he was cheating on her with his fucking secretary. Like, and she knew this. Like, Alex has memories of these arguments, of hearing her parents argue about this woman. And then when Alex's mother dies, this woman comes into their house, is pregnant already. She's pregnant already. And her dad takes Alex and Beatrice to an apartment because he doesn't want them living with him, his new wife, and his new fucking baby. Like, he has this whole new family and he's just basically wanting a fucking do-over. And he tells Alex, who at the time is fucking 15, like, oh, you're gonna have time to do all of this and go to school, and you don't need to go to college. Like, why are you even worried about that? Because going to college has nothing to do with raising kids and having a family. And if your mom could have done this while she was so sick with her cancer, like, you're gonna be able to do it just fine. And he expected her to be okay with that, and not only to be okay with it, but also to be fucking thankful because he was paying for their food and their rent and all this fucking bullshit. And I just can't stand that. Like, paying for something is not the same as raising your fucking kid. He expects her to be thankful. He expects her to take care of everything for Beatrice's schooling. Like, even when he's getting letters and the principals are wanting to talk to him specifically, he still brings them to Alex with handwritten notes. Like, doesn't even fucking open the door and talk to her. Slides notes under the door that say, I hope you can take care of this, and I don't want to hear any more about it. And then whenever the principal is like, where the fuck's your dad? And then he goes to the dad's house, and the dad gets mad at Alex and is like, I don't know why he felt the need to come over here. You must not have taken care of this. And it upset my wife to be reminded that I had 2 other fucking kids. Like, it makes me so mad. It makes me want to turn into a motherfucking dragon, honestly. So that's why I've been reading it slowly. because there's just so much. And it reminds me how lucky I am to not be in a relationship like that. That I don't have those expectations placed on me. They are expectations that certain people still have, but like the people that don't know me very well. And I'm very lucky to have been raised to not give a fuck what other people think, what they say. Like, you can have that expectation and you can get mad that I don't meet it, but that's not going to change how I'm going to live my life. And I'm very lucky to have that. I'm very lucky to have a mom and other women in my family that were very strong-willed and were very outspoken. And Alex talks about in the book, like, making sure her and Beatrice always have ironed clothes. Their skin is scrubbed so hard that it glows. She was stressing about all of these superficial things just because that's what was expected of her from the people that, like, the teachers, and from her dad. Like, her dad was like, I don't want people to know about your unusual living situation. Like, if anybody asks about it, you're not supposed to talk about it, blah, blah, blah. Like, he didn't want people to know that he was fucking abusing these two girls because that would look bad on him. Anyway, I'm gonna lay out some time to read today, so I'll make a little bit more headway in this book, and I'll let you know what I think. Alex is getting older. She's about to graduate high school. She's working really hard because she's trying to get into college anyway. He's trying to get her to take a secretary job. She's trying to get into colleges anyway. And I really hope that she does. I think it's implied that she does become a scientist, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that change happen for her. I'm really looking forward to her ties with her dad being cut completely. No longer having to live by his expectations. I'm gonna go sit outside and read. See ya. I mentioned before that I was not doing a ton of reading with When Women Were Dragons this week, but I have done quite a bit of reading the Blue Horses collection of poems by Mary Oliver, and I wanted to read you just a few of my favorites so far. So the first one is called No Matter What. No matter what the world claims, its wisdom always growing, so it's said. Some things don't alter with time. The first kiss is a good example, and the flighty sweetness of a rhyme. No matter what the world preaches, spring unfolds in its appointed time. The violets open and the roses. Snow in its hour builds its shining curves. There's a laughter of children at play and the wholesome sweetness of rhyme. No matter what the world does, some things don't alter with time. The first kiss, the first death, the sorrowful sweetness of rhyme. Another one is, if I wanted a boat. I would want a boat if I wanted a boat that bounded hard on the waves, that didn't know starboard from port and wouldn't learn, that welcomed dolphins and headed straight for the whales, that when rocks were close would slide in for a touch or two, that wouldn't keep land in sight and went fast, that leapt into the spray. What kind of life is it always to plan and do, to promise and finish, to wish for the near and the safe? Yes, by the heavens, if I wanted a boat, I would want a boat that couldn't steer. I love that one. Like, I don't know why it almost brings tears to me. But yeah, that's one of my favorites for sure. I think that's all that I'm going to read right now for you, because I don't want to read her whole collection of poems to you. There are a lot of good poems. It's a lot of seeing beauty in the mundane, and I feel like maybe it's her pace, I don't know, but simple living, I guess, is what it reminds me of, like finding joy in simple living. That's something I've been enjoying. I'm currently on page 227 of When Women Were Dragons, so I hope to make a little bit of progress today. I would love to finish it, but I highly doubt I'm going to be reading, let's see, yeah, over 100 pages tonight. So I've got like 140-ish pages left in this book. I would love to finish it soon, just because I kind of want to move on to something a little more lighthearted, but like I said, this is a really good book. I think it's a really important book. I almost want to say it should be a required reading for women in general. I guess a part that I just read was Alex was apologizing to her librarian for getting angry about her librarian bringing up her aunt, which she's been lying about for so long that she doesn't have an aunt. She only has a sister. She's never had a cousin, whatever. And like the whole situation where her dad is having her raise her sister, cousin. The librarian says to her, like, she apologizes about her anger. Alex apologizes about her anger, and she's like, I'm not an angry person. She says, I don't get angry. I don't usually get angry, but lately, ... The words died there. And the librarian, Miss Jinzinska, I'm not really good with names, but anyway, the librarian says, I encourage you to consider a question. Who benefits, my dear, when you force yourself to not feel angry? Clearly, not you. Look at where you're living. Think of what you're being asked to do. You're not angry? Hell, I am angry on your behalf. I am angry on your behalf. And that's how I feel reading this book in general. I am so angry on Alex's behalf. I am so angry on behalf of all the women in this world that feel like they have to hide parts of themselves, feel like there's something wrong with them because they're not able to live up to patriarchal expectations of women. If you like the Barbie movie, there's a lot less comedy in this, but you need to read this book. So yesterday, I got to page 280 in When Women Were Dragons. Today I'm going to finish it. I'm going to sit outside and I'm just going to read until I'm done, mostly because I'm really interested in seeing how it ends. So the dragons have started coming back. You know, they changed and they left and now they're coming back. So they're not forgotten. I think is the idea. Like, we kind of get some articles from the future and some things about Dr. Grants and everything. So it's implied, I think, that Dr. Grant has had a little bit of a conversation with the dragons of what would happen if you weren't forgotten, because the American government is just trying to shut it all down and kind of encouraging people to forget that this event took place. So the dragons are coming back now, and they're like sitting outside of homes with people that they left, you know. They're helping in some ways, like helping in natural disasters, like setting up shelters for people that need homes. Like one dragon was sitting outside of the, I can't remember what it's called, but you know, the place in the hospital where they keep the newborns, and she was singing to the babies, and the babies would all, you know, be very calm and quiet. And so the nurses were like, oh, don't get them to leave. But they couldn't say dragons, like they didn't want to say don't get the dragon to leave. I think they called it that thing, but whatever. Like, if you don't want it to leave and it's helping you out, why can't you just say dragon? Like, there's the idea that the dragons are too feminine, too embarrassing to talk about, like pregnancy is too embarrassing to talk about, or periods are too embarrassing to talk about. Anyway, so dragons, they won't say the word dragons still, but Beatrice also almost dragoned in front of Alex, and she was really scared, mostly about losing Beatrice, about Beatrice flying away and never being able to see her, and like Alex being all on her own. But anyway, Dr. Gienska, Miss Gienska, I know I'm not saying her name right, but anyway, the librarian, she was telling Alex, like, just don't lose her, like, be in contact with her, basically, I think is what she was trying to say. Like, there's only so much that you can control. So the implication is that if she does dragon, like, you can still be there for her, like, she's still gonna be her, and you don't have to lose her. That's a decision you're gonna have to make, you know? But anyway, Aunt Marla has come back and is like sitting outside of their apartment at times. She's sitting outside of their school at times and making sure that they're being taken care of. And there are dragons helping all over the place, and people are kind of starting, they're still in shock. They're still not saying dragon, but they're starting to be like, these things are helpful, not harmful, you know? But the government is still very quiet about it so far. So I'm interested to see. I've got about 80 pages. I've got about 80 pages left to read. So we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see if the government comes around, or at least gonna see what happens with Alex. So I'm interested to see how it goes. I'm wearing the reading socks that I made for myself. They're all scrunchy. I have finished reading When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. It was really good. It was really good. I cried. There were definitely tears shed. It's definitely a book I'm gonna want to reread. Like I said, I read it slowly because it made me very angry. And it wasn't really until the end that I realized that this is like a memoir. So it's written like a memoir. You're getting Alex's life from beginning to end, and all the strange circumstances that go along with it. And it was just such a beautiful story. It was such a beautiful story. And I just loved she just touches on any kind of female relationship that you could ever have and how important they are. She touches on, obviously, patriarchy, patriarchal thinking, women with patriarchal thinking. Since Alex is one of those women for much of her life, you know. I really loved that part at prom where they're dancing together and a bunch of the girls turn into dragons. I loved pretty much everything after Alex graduates high school and goes on to college. Pretty much everything after her dad dies, like before she even graduates high school. But like her dad dies and Marla comes back, and eventually, you know, she harbors this anger towards Marla for leaving, but eventually she lets Marla become a part of their family again. And Marla brings like her dragons that I think she's in like a relationship with 3 other dragons, including Edith, which is a person that she had a relationship with when she was in the Air Force, that dragoned while she was in the Air Force. I just want to cry. Thinking about how beautiful it ended up, like how angry I was in the beginning, and how beauty can still come out of anger-inducing situations. Not just beauty, but freedom. Alex was in part aware of the duality of we have to pretend like these things never happened, but also knowing that they happened. And like she had that her whole life. And so then later in her life, being able to find the freedom of, I can remember all of these things, I can talk about all of these things. There are no chains on her mind anymore. And I think that's beautiful. And the importance of like making decisions, I guess. Like, because Alex, she never decides to turn into a dragon, you know. Even when the girl that she's in love with in college turns into a dragon, she does not follow her. Because she knows that for her life she wants to be a human, and she wants to be a physicist, and she wants to do all of these things and not be the dragon. The importance of knowing yourself to be able to make the right decisions for you. She's also trying to keep Beatrice from dragoning, but also seeing that this is hurting Beatrice, you know, like Beatrice knows who she is. She knows she is a dragon, and that's where she's gonna find her happiness, her freedom, and like realizing that they are just different. Like Alex thrives a little more in this academic space and navigating the world as a human, and then seeing that Beatrice does not want to be chained to a desk all day. She wants to have freedom in her learning. She wants to be able to fly, you know, like literally in every sense, just. And yet Beatrice still goes on to do amazing things. Like she's helping save communities from being bombed and shit, and figuring out how to non-violently end war, and just making war almost impossible. I don't know, I feel like I should have more intelligent things to say because this book is filled with so many intelligent women. But I'm just really happy that this book was written. I'm really happy that I was able to read it. This is something that I really liked in the book, that the freedom came from a choice within you to be free. There are some instances in the book that seem like it just kind of happened and people didn't really know why. It came from rage, but sometimes it came from joy. But the same thing was just that driving force of, I want to be free. I deserve to be free, or I am free. You know, the joy that comes from, wow, I am free. I really liked that. The reoccurring theme of memory and knots. Memory is a strange thing. It reorganizes and connects. It provides context and clarity. It reveals patterns and divergences. It finds the holes in the universe and stitches them closed, tying the threads together in a tight, unbreakable knot. I learned this from my mother, and now I will teach it to you. I recommend it to everyone, whether you have a womb or not. And I feel like, especially in our political climate today, I feel like this should be required reading. Definitely one of my favorites.